Hello, everybody. We're just going to give people a few more minutes to sign in here. There is a Q&A function if you're having any issues or if you have some questions as we go through this presentation. Feel free to type them in there. My name is John Annis, and with me here is Mike DiCarlo, but we'll do some introductions once we kick off formally. Let's maybe give it one more minute. I can see people joining here. A few familiar names for sure. Hey, Mike, just speak for a sec so that we can test that your video is working.
Hey, John.
Okay. Hopefully everybody can see both of us. Maybe just give it 30 more seconds and then we'll jump into it. Okay, well, let's dive in, and people can continue to join as we get rolling, but let's start because we want to be on time. So thanks everybody for joining us and welcome. My name is John Annis. I'm the head of sales here at Tangent Labs, and with me here is Mike DiCarlo, who is our LoUPE product specialist, and we'll be walking you through the presentation today. So I really appreciate everybody joining us, and I just want to say that I hope everyone is well. It's a really strange time in the world, but I am really pleased to see that there are many aspects of our industry and productions that are thriving. So that really makes me happy. What I would say is that these are strange times for everybody, and as you can see, I'm working from home. This is sort of my new office, as lavish as it is, and I think that probably most of you are working from home as well. And just as a quick start, I wanted to just put up a poll to see, where is everybody working? I'm going to launch this now.
Hey, John, I think you spotlight me. I think they can only see me right now.
Okay, I can spotlight
just
myself.
Spotlight yourself.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Cool. So is everybody working from home? Are you working in the studio? Is it a hybrid of both? Just throw the survey up and see what other people are saying. Okay. So it looks like, I'm going to share these results here. It looks like pretty much everybody is working from home, which is essentially what we expected. So that's not a surprise. So that's really cool. And it's interesting that there are a lot of fundamentals about LoUPE that promote working from home, and it's something, we're not happy about the pandemic, but it is a vision that we kind of saw for the future for people to be collaborating remotely, and we think that you'll see some benefits to the LoUPE platform that will enable you to do that. So what we're doing today here really is to give you an overview of LoUPE. And LoUPE is essentially a cloud-based production pipeline tool that was released by Tangent Labs yesterday on the AWS Marketplace. And we're really excited about this. And you may have seen already in our branding, the LoUPE tagline is storytelling simplified. And this is something that we take very seriously. And if you know many of us outside of me in sales, the people behind LoUPE are artists at heart. We're people that have come up through production, and we really pride ourselves on being a tool that was created for artists by artists. So LoUPE was actually born out of our sister company, Tangent Animation. And like most studios, we kind of grew up in the traditional production model that required the use of many disparate tools to get snapshots of project data and assets and shots and sequences and things like that. And the tools that I'm talking about are like F-Track, they're Shotgun, probably proprietary tools for asset management. Many of you use things like Cinesync for review, and lots of people probably using Excel and Google Sheets and things like that as well. So just as another quick poll, I would just like to see what your tools of choice are in your current production pipeline. Just throw that up there and give everybody a chance to vote. Okay, a few more answers coming in. Just give it a few more seconds. It's very cool, actually. So if you look at our results here, it's sort of as expected. A lot of people using a lot of different tools for project management, a lot of Shotgun, obviously, F-Track, Excel and Google Docs. We're really sort of surprised and not surprised to see a lot of people running productions using those, and then a lot of homegrown stuff, as you can see. So I think the one thing that we want to say about all of those tools is they are all really fantastic. All of those tools, Shotgun, F-Track, Cinesync, everything is really good at what it does. But we really find that in managing our productions historically, once you're trying to use all of these disparate tools together to try to provide a snapshot of where you are in your production or where shot sequences are or where assets are, the focus sort of moves away from creativity and the art, and it moves towards technology. And that's really what we wanted to try to do with LoUPE, is to put the focus back on the art and provide one pane of glass for you to view all of this production data. So I hope that you'll find that that is what we've done. And in that, we're really just trying to simplify the storytelling process. So before we dive in, I do have one more survey, and then I promise I'll leave everybody alone and get you to the meat and potatoes of the presentation. But I just wanted to know generally what industry the attendees here are from. It'll help us provide some context for what we're presenting. Okay, a few more seconds, a few more votes coming in. Love this polling tool. All right, so I'll end it there and I'll share the results. So as expected, a lot of 2D, 3D animation, VFX, but sort of a smattering of people all around sort of the ancillary industries based around 3D as well. So I will stop that. And just in terms of a little bit of an agenda, so Mike is going to run you through a combination of some prepared videos as well as a bit of live demo with LoUPE as well. And afterwards, we'll have lots of time for questions and answers. So please post your questions online. And following this presentation, if anybody wants to get a hold of us, you can go to our website, which is www.tangent-labs.com, and there's lots of places to contact us there. As well, you'll find our listing, lots of links to our listing on our website and also on the AWS Marketplace. So with that, I will pass it over to Mike, and I'm just going to pin your video there, Mike, and I think we should be good to go.
Yeah, I think you just need to give me the share permission there, John.
Okay.
Yeah, so like John's saying, we'll do this in two parts. So the first part will be some videos that we've recorded that kind of cover the basics of LoUPE, but just an introduction. It'll be a little bit quicker to play through these than to demo that part live. And then we'll switch into a live demo and take a look at some of the more unique and advanced features. Hopefully start to answer any questions that you guys have. We can take a look at the Blender Asset Manager and go from there.
Hang on, Mike. I think people are only seeing me, which is not what we want. Can you spotlight yourself, Mike?
No, I can't. I don't have that control.
Okay, should be good now.
Okay, so why don't we start with the videos? So I'll go ahead and play those. It's about 10 minutes of videos. It'll kind of give us just an overview of the product. And then we'll jump into the live demonstration. In this video, we're going to take a look at the LoUPE user interface and set up a new project. Let's get started by logging in. And once we've done that, we'll be on the project's landing page. Along the top of this interface, we see the product navigation bar. This is one of the three main navigational components of LoUPE and contains a project switcher on the left, a link back to this page in the LoUPE logo, and a user menu on the right, which contains pages for My Account, Company, Help, and Logging Out. Let's take a look at the My Account page, where we get an overview of the logged in user. We can see and edit personal information, reset our password, see the projects that we're assigned to, and see all of our recent activity. Let's switch over to the Company page, where we get an overview of the company configured for this LoUPE instance. We can see a list view for all of the projects, plus an activity feed. At the company level, we have settings, where we can configure our own summary statuses, roles, where we can configure user permissions. LoUPE comes with 3 common roles built in for admin, production, and artists. And people, where we can add and disable users. Let's go ahead and add a new user to LoUPE by clicking on the Add User icon in the username header. We'll give them a unique username, enter a first name and last name, a title, pick a role, and enter an email address. We'll mark them as active and click the checkmark icon in the Actions field. Later, we'll add this user to a project and assign them some tasks. To edit an existing user, we click on the pencil icon in the Action field. Let's jump back to the project's landing page by clicking on the LoUPE icon in the product navigation bar. The project's landing page will always show a list of projects that the current user has access to, and the last entry in this list is always a link to launch the new project creation modal. Let's go ahead and open it up. And this form asks us for some basic information about the project that we want to create. Let's start by taking a look at the templates along the left side of the modal. LoUPE comes with 4 templates built in: feature film, episodic, VFX, and minimal, which can be used as a base if you need to create your own custom templates. For this example, let's stick with feature film, which will give us a typical sequence and shot structure. You can read more about what these templates do in the descriptions just below them or in the docs. Let's give our project a name and a shortcode. Let's leave the Create Demo Data box checked, and let's pick the project type from the dropdown, which will tell LoUPE what type of files to track. We'll go ahead and click Create. And we're taken to our project landing page. So now we're in the Mimo project. This is an animated feature that's halfway through production, so we have some data to look at. You can see that we still have access to our product navigation bar along the top of the interface, and we have an additional 2 navigation controls, the Data Views menu on the left and the Actions menu on the right. The Data Views menu is a group of pages that collectively represent all of your project management data. You'll see that if we click on a data view, it'll navigate us away from the current page. We can click on the Home button to return us to the landing page. Clicking on an action menu item will open a drawer without leaving our current place in the application. You'll notice on the Overview tab that we have 3 embedded data views. These are the same and have the same functionality as their dedicated data views that we'll see in a bit. The Tasks view lists all of the tasks on this project, including shots and assets. The Media view lists all of the media on this project, sorted from newest to oldest. And the Activity view shows all the recent activity on this project. Combined, these 3 views are intended to give you a quick look at the state of the project. Now let's take a look at the other 4 views on the home page. The Settings tab, where we can set up our file system, mount descriptors, render settings, and statuses. We'll take a closer look at some of these in later videos. Moving on to the Templates tab, where we can set up custom project structures for advanced use cases, and task templates to create entities that have a predefined set of subtasks. On the People tab, we can link people to this project that have been created in the system. So let's go ahead and add the demo user that we made in the previous video by clicking on the Add User icon in the name column, and then clicking on the checkmark in the Actions field. Let's go ahead and add that user to the Animation team, something that we control at the project level, from the Teams tab, where we can define custom user groups. Now I've switched over to a blank project to illustrate creating some shots and assets. You'll see that this project is empty except for the shots and assets libraries. These get created automatically by LoUPE and are the root level in the project hierarchy for those types of entities. Although it's not the only place in LoUPE to do this from, we'll use the action menu for this demo. So we'll click on the Create Asset action, which opens this drawer. We'll need to decide where in the project hierarchy to put this asset, which we can do by opening the Create In modal. Assets can either live on their own, or as children of other assets. We'll make a parent asset called props, and then select it. Our new asset will be created as a child of the props asset. We'll name this asset Lantern, give it a shortcode, and assign it to us. We'll set the summary status to waiting to start, and you'll see that the detail status follows suit. We'll set the start date to November 30th, the end date in the future, the due date beyond that, and the percentage complete to 0. Then we'll click Save. And our asset gets created. The process is nearly identical for creating shots. We've seen list views in a couple of places already throughout the application, but let's take a look at some of the functionality that they provide. As you can see, they present data in a table format. We're looking at a list of tasks here, so let's try to sort the data. We go to the column header and click on it, and the column sorts ascending. Clicking on it again reverses the sort order, and clicking on it a third time removes the sort. Let's sort by due date again, and then go over to the name column and sort by that as well. You'll see that we now have 2 active sorts on this table. To group the data, another common table operation, all we have to do is grab a column header, drag it, and drop it into the space above the list. We can grab another column and do the same thing, creating a nested group. We can remove a grouping by clicking the X next to its field name. And we can change the sort order of groups by clicking on the field name. Columns can be rearranged by dragging and dropping them. And their visibility can be controlled by clicking on the 3 dots at the end of the header row and toggling fields on or off. If this is a configuration of the list view that we'll want to look at often, we can save it as a view. We'll go up to the Views menu, where you can see that we've already saved one view called Demo. We'll go down to the Save View button, give our new view a name, pick whether we want this view to be available system-wide or just for us, and click Save. You'll see that our new view appears in the top left, beside our existing view, and we can toggle between them. If we're looking for something specific in the table, either a specific entry or entries that share some common property, we can use filters. In the top right, open the filter menu, and start by picking a field. We'll look for shots that are assigned to us. We'll use the operator exact, and enter our username. Then we'll click Apply to run the filter. You can see that all of the tasks returned match our username. Filters can also be saved to views, so let's do that by saving a new view, giving it a name, but this time let's save it as a user view so that it's only visible to us. You can see that it also appears in the left next to our other views, but it has a slightly different look to indicate that it isn't visible system-wide. Let's switch back to our starting view and talk about list view actions. If an item in a list view has any actions associated with its entity, they'll be available in the Actions column. Let's look for some shots. And take a look at the available actions. You'll see that we can open the card detail view, as well as the modal detail view. We'll take a look at the card detail view in the Kanban video, so let's open the modal detail here. You'll see that a new screen pops up on top of the list view, which gives a detailed overview of this task. On the left side, we have the latest media available to play, as well as an overview of important information. On the right, we have a breadcrumb trail showing where in the project hierarchy we are, and several tabs for associated items. The Tasks tab will show a list of all tasks that are children of this task. The Versions tab will show changes made to this task in the Asset Manager. The Media tab will show playable media associated with this task. The Notes tab will show any notes on this task, and the Related tab will show any linked shots or assets if we're looking at the detail for one of those two entities. Closing the detail view will return us back to where we were when we opened it. Now we're going to take a look at LoUPE's media review tools. The first thing to do is load up a page that has media on it. This could be a project overview, a detail view, or in this case, the media data view. We'll start by making a new playlist. We'll click on the Playlist Manager from the action bar and click Create a Playlist. We'll give it a title and a description. And then we'll add some media to it. We can preview the media by scrubbing the thumbnail and add it to the playlist by dragging and dropping. This works anywhere in the app. Once we have some media on our playlist, we'll click Save and Play to start a review. With the review loaded, you can see the clips that we chose on the left underneath the video player, and you can see that we're the only active member of this review in the Members tab. If we share this link with some of our colleagues, they can join the review and we can collaborate in real time. Okay, so now my colleague has joined the review, and you can see that we're both active. If I go ahead and play, the first clip will reach its end, and the second clip will automatically begin. If I pause, select the pen tool, and draw, my annotation will be visible to everyone in the session. Now let's make a note to accompany this drawing by switching to the Notes tab. We can enter a subject, and then some body text for the note. We can go ahead and post that, and it'll appear for all review members. You can see that someone else in the review just replied, and is now drawing with a blue pen. We can also create a task to make sure that this note gets addressed right from inside the review. Click on the Add Task button in the bottom of the note, give the task a name, we'll assign it to ourselves, and click Create Task. All tasks created from a review this way are visible on the Tasks tab, including the card detail view, where we could schedule the task and change its status. Let's head back over to the video player to take a look at a few more of its controls. I can load individual clips by double-clicking on them. The active clip is indicated by a blue outline, and I can step forward through a clip with the Frame Forward button. I can toggle whether a clip will loop when it reaches its end, cycle through clips with the Next Clip button, and toggle on or off whether annotations are visible while playing. Just below the header, I can switch from seeing all notes and tasks in a review to only those on the active clip. All right, so that's the basic overview of some of the key features, and then we'll switch to kind of a live presentation for the remaining features. So I'm just gonna readjust here and share my desktop. And John, if any questions come in while I'm doing this, if you could maybe just read them out to me, because I'm not going to be able to see.
Yep, will do. Okay. We've had a few already, which I answered in line, but if anybody has any other questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A there.
All right, so you guys should be able to see my desktop here. John, can you confirm that it's good?
Yep.
All right, great. So we're here in LoUPE. We've logged in. We're on the projects landing page that we saw in the kind of overview video. I've got 4 projects configured here. And we're going to cover a couple of things to start with. The first will be the Kanban view, which is kind of the central project management functionality that LoUPE offers. So it's probably best to start in the minimal view, the minimal template rather. This is kind of the bare minimum amount of configuration that you need to get a project set up. You'll see that there's nothing in it except for an asset library and a shot library, which you kind of need as the root containers for those two types of assets. And that's all that we have. So the Kanban view is a data view. So it's in the data views menu on the left. And we'll take a look at some of the other ones here after we cover the tasks list in the video. But let's load up the Kanban board. And we get a very simple Kanban board in the minimal template project. We'll take a look at a more complex one that has some kind of production data in it, just to get a sense of what that might look like as a project grows. But we know that a lot of people aren't familiar with Kanban. I'm sure some of you are from using apps like Trello or Microsoft Planner. But the concept is pretty simple, and it's a powerful and effective way to manage processes. I come from a production background. I've been a VFX producer for a while before joining LoUPE, and this is a really exciting feature for me because I saw that a lot of people kind of wanted to use this, and they were kind of implementing Kanban in various parts of the pipeline, and LoUPE really embraces it and kind of makes it a first-class feature, and has a pretty unique approach to it that we'll see, where you can kind of manage different steps with their own Kanbans, and it's kind of all connected in one. So let's just go over the basics of what Kanban is. It's a process management technique. So it's used pretty commonly in software development, pretty ubiquitously in software development. And it was actually invented by Toyota to make cars, and kind of mirrors an assembly line type idea. So if you imagine these column headers as kind of columns on a board, any kind of work that we need to do, we kind of add to the column as a card. You can think of it as a sticky note on a physical board. And then as we complete work on the that whatever that work item is, we move it through the columns until we kind of reach the end state. So we have three statuses on this board: waiting, which is kind of where all work will begin; in progress, so we'll move the cards there once we start the work, and then once it's done, we'll move them to done. And what you get is a nice visual representation of where backlogs are occurring, and progress that way. So you'll see on the LoUPE Kanban board that there's a breadcrumb trail at the top left. And right now we're in the asset library. That's kind of the root level for assets. And if you click the root chevron here, you can switch between the asset and the shot library. So those are two separate concerns. And you'll see that they're using the same statuses in this template, but obviously, as you start to work on real productions, you'll be able to add statuses that kind of make sense for you, which we'll see in a bit. But let's set up a couple of cards here, as though we're going to start doing some work. So in the shot library, we can create cards just at the bottom of the swim lanes here. The columns in Kanban are referred to as swim lanes. And if we click that, we'll get a little widget that opens up, and we can create a couple of different types of cards. So the ones that LoUPE kind of ships with are processes. So a process in LoUPE is a group of tasks. A process might be animation, and then within that you might have blocking and spline animation. Might be modeling, where you'll have base model and final model, something like that. So a process is a container for tasks. A task is kind of the smallest unit of work. So that's the base model or the final model. The task is something that needs to be completed, and it doesn't have any children. And an entity is an asset or a shot. So that's kind of the higher level construct. So let's go ahead and make an entity here. We'll just give it a name, call it shot 10. And we'll create that. Oops, it should have appeared on the board. So you'll see it's here in the swim lane now. It's waiting to start. And just like a physical card, LoUPE's Kanban kind of has the concept of being able to flip this card over and take a look at what's on the back. And at the back of the card is a good place to kind of store some detailed information that that changes pretty frequently. So if we open up the back of the card for this new shot that we just made, you can see that we can assign this to someone. So let's just go ahead and assign that to me. The code we set when we made it. Priority, this is just a number to, kind of sort the priority order of the work. Start frame and end frame we'll leave as is for now. We can set a start date, set that to today, a due date, set that to Friday. We can make an estimate for how long the work will take to complete. We can say 5 days. And then we can set a status. So a status is kind of represented by the swim lane. We can just put these in waiting to start. And LoUPE has two types of status. It has a summary status and a detail status, which we'll look at in a few minutes. But for now, we'll focus on the detail statuses. So we've updated that card, and as soon as we kind of the work is in progress, we'll move it into this swim lane. And as soon as it's done, we'll move it into this swim lane. But as we go, you'll see that we'll probably need to do some specific work on this shot. So if we click on it, you'll see that shots have this kind of 3D card representation. That indicates that you can kind of click through it down a level into the Kanban board to a kind of a nested Kanban board that represents just this shot. So if the shot library is the overall progress of our shots in this example, if we click on that card, that takes us one level deeper to a Kanban board for just this shot. So here is where we probably want to start adding some processes or some tasks, that represent the work that needs to be completed to bring that shot to completion. So if we do that, let's just add a task. So maybe we need to add a compositing task for this shot. Maybe that's all we're doing. You'll see that it shows up in the waiting to start here. And if we're ready to get that going, I'll just move it into in progress. And then back up here on the Kanban board, I can move that to in progress as well. So this shot's in progress. And if I drill down into it, I can see exactly what work is in progress. And you can imagine that if I had all of my tasks listed here, we'd get a good visual look at the backlog, what's in progress and what's complete. And we can move that to done once it's finished and approved. Go back to our shot library, we would do the same to its parent card once everything that's a child of it is done. And in that way, you can kind of have this process management that is pretty intuitive. It's pretty powerful, and yet it's pretty simple and easy to grasp. And that's kind of one of the things that we really like about it. And we found it, I think all of us on the LoUPE team, extremely beneficial in actual production cases. So that's kind of the basic look at the Kanban board. Let's switch over to a project though that has a bit more data in it to get a better idea of what that would look like at a bigger scale. So I think in the video I mentioned that Mimo is a feature animated production. So we'll load up its Kanban board. We'll switch to the shots library and we'll open this sequence 10 here. So here's a board that has quite a bit more data on it. You can see we're tracking several shots. And they're in various states of production. So waiting to start, a couple of them are ready, a bunch are in progress. And here we introduce some new statuses: on hold, out of picture, approved, CBB. These are kind of specific to our production. And if we drill down into one of these, let's go into shot 20, for example. Sorry, let's go to shot 10. You'll see that in progress, we have a whole bunch of processes. So like I was saying, a process is a group of tasks. So we have animation, effects, camera finaling, comp, crowd, layout, editorial. A bunch of these things are, different steps that we have in our pipeline. These might be different for what you guys are doing. But if we open one of these, you'll see that we have 2 tasks in here, both complete: animation and blocking. And we can do that for any shot on the board to kind of get a look at the process that's happening inside of it. And this is a good spot to talk about summary statuses versus detail statuses. So one thing that we found working on multiple projects at once, or even just being a producer or an executive that needs kind of a look at a higher level summary of what's the status of a production, is that this can be a lot of information, and it can be pretty process specific, especially when you get into department teams that use different statuses. A lot of these things, for all intents and purposes, at a lot of reporting levels, waiting and ready are the same thing. They're not yet begun. So what LoUPE does is introduce this concept of summary statuses, where we map this status and this status to a higher level status. So these both map to waiting to start. Likewise, approved and could be better are both statuses that are complete for all intents and purposes. And we can switch up in the top right here to a summary status view. So you'll see right now we're in the detail view. And if we switch to the summary view, that'll just load, and you'll see that we get a much simpler presentation of the state of these shots. So they kind of get grouped into these statuses that their detail statuses are mapped to, and I get a much clearer look at what the backlog looks like and waiting to start, how much stuff is in progress, what's approved, and these couple shots that are out of picture. And this is powerful to kind of get an overview of what's happening at every stage, especially if you're not familiar with the intricate or detailed processes at every level. It's also helpful company-wide. The summary statuses are set at the company level. I think we looked briefly at the company entity, which is a system-wide entity in LoUPE. And if you have multiple projects happening, obviously those have different processes. They might be totally different types of work, but you can map them to a common set of statuses, so you can kind of get this overview of what's happening on every show in a common presentation. So that's really powerful. That's something that we've, I think, all struggled with in the past. And that's basically how the Kanban board works. It's kind of the central place for managing entities, assets, shots, tasks. You can make new assets and shots here, same as you can from the create asset and create shot window. And we took a look at the detail view in the video that went over the task list, but you'll see on the cards themselves, there's a couple of hit points. We looked at the back of the card, so this is kind of as though we flip the card over and we have some detail available. If we click on the name, we can open the. Let me just flip back to the detail view for a sec. If we click on the name of the card, you'll see that we get the same detail view that we looked at in the video. So thumbnail available up here. We can look at the media that's been uploaded, any notes, and any related assets. Cards are also where you can upload media. So from the back of the card, I just open that up. I click on upload media, and I can just grab any file from my computer, and that'll upload. And we'll see the thumbnail updated. If I switch over here, you'll see that becomes the new thumbnail. That's now the latest media. And we can take a look at it. We can also put it into a review. If you guys have any questions about the Kanban board, though, I know there's quite a lot of functionality here. Just ask them, and we'll try to answer. And then while we're in here, we can take a look at a couple of the other data views that we didn't cover in detail in the video, although they're pretty similar to the tasks list that we did. So this is the tasks list that we took a look at. The list view concept appears, throughout the application. You'll see it in detail views. You'll see it in a lot of the data views. If we switch to shots, for example, You'll see it here. Same for assets. And then you kind of get some slightly different media views, or list views rather, on the media transit status and notes page. So media lists are similar to the list views that you get for the more data-oriented views, but they have a few unique features. You see, first of all, the action is different. It's a play action, so that'll pop open a media detail view where we have the past versions of that media, any notes, information, and we can play the media here, or this is a still image, which will also work. We can toggle the media list views from a kind of table view like this to a grid view, which is a bit more visual, a bit easier to kind of understand what's happening, and certainly a bit easier to drag into our playlist manager when we're trying to set up reviews. Same for notes. Notes is similar to the tasks list view, except a couple of new concepts. For one, we can see replies in line here. So we can kind of roll these rows out. You get this links column, which kind of shows the things that this note was made on. In this case, these were all made on assets. And you have this add note button, which lets you add a note right in the context of the list view. So, you can add a note here. Probably wouldn't do that on this page, but anywhere you see this notes list view, you can add a note right from there. But they support the same functionality as other list views. You can group them by dragging and dropping headers up into the grouping row here. And at this point, I think we probably want to jump into Blender and take a look at the asset manager there. Actually, John, why don't I play the Blender asset manager video, which gives a very quick 2-minute overview of how it works, and then
that sounds good.
Then I'll do a live demo of some of the more detailed features. So let me just stop sharing my desktop, and I will grab that video.
Keep the questions coming, everybody. If you want any further information about any of the elements that we're showing.
Yeah, so before we jump into the asset manager, I guess it's just worth noting, I think probably a lot of you guys know this, but LoUPE is kind of built on top of Blender. We are offering a Maya add-on as well, so that's going to be available. But we support Blender. Our sister company, Tangent Animation, is a Blender-based shop. So we're going to use that for this demo. Let me just share this video, which is a quick overview of doing a simple task in the Blender Asset Manager, and then we'll get into it. So just
I don't think you have volume, Mike.
Sorry about that, John. Share my sound.
There we go.
Okay, this is going to be a very quick look at the LoUPE Asset Manager add-on for Blender. We work with the Asset Manager from the Tool and Workspace tab. For this demo, we'll be working on Scene 10, Shot 10, so we'll switch to the Shots library. Open Scene 10, and then select Shot 10. We'll switch to the Layout team, and make sure that we have the latest working file selected. In this case, that's the version 1 that LoUPE has automatically created for us, and then we'll click Open. The Asset Manager has checked out version 1 of the layout file, so we can go back to the Asset Browser and open the Asset Library. We'll start by bringing in our alley set, so we'll open the Sets container, switch to the Surfacing team, and bring in the latest published file. We'll do the same for our barrel asset. Then we'll go ahead and make some modifications to the layout. And once we're happy with it, save and publish for a downstream team to pick up. Okay, so that's a very quick overview of how the Blender Asset Manager works. It's pretty powerful. It's actually not that complicated though, so we can take a look at some of the more specific features, but I think you probably have a pretty good idea from that. Let me just share my desktop again. I've got Blender open. I see a question from Shervin in the Q&A about asset shot library templates. Yes, we do have those. I'll show you quickly. It's a bit beyond the scope of this demo, but yeah, definitely you don't need to create all the tasks manually if you don't want to. So let me share my desktop. Okay, so you guys should see that I'm in Blender now. I've already installed the add-on. There's a pretty straightforward Windows installer with pretty comprehensive documentation, which you can find once you've kind of signed up for LoUPE through the AWS Marketplace. If I just open the Blender preferences, we can take a quick look at what the add-on looks like here. So I've got it up. I just searched for it in the add-on list. A couple things to configure in here. Let me just log out and log back in. So you'll need to supply the URL to your LoUPE instance, and then just a username and a password. Like that, we'll log in. It'll grab a list of projects. We can grab our minimal project from earlier. And actually, let's do that, and I'll go make an asset there, and we can kind of just mimic a little production process. So we'll set it to minimal. We'll set the network mode to cloud. This means that I'm going to be working remotely. I'm at home, as I think we all are from that poll earlier. But we could set it to local network, which is a bit of a more advanced configuration where we might be working at a studio, and even though everything is going to AWS, it's also being localized at the studio by the transit manager. So rather than downloading everything to my workstation, I can pull it off of a shared storage drive. But we'll work cloud, and we're working in cloud. The transit manager will pull stuff down to just my C drive temp directory, and that's fine because as I save, it'll send it back to the cloud. So I'm not too worried about where that goes locally. So we'll close that. We can turn on the default setting to sync external files. That's anything that's not inside the blend file. We'll take a look at that a bit when we get into saving and publishing. I'll leave that off though for now. So that's really it to get going. We've pointed at our server. We've logged in. We've set a project, and same as the Kanban board, we have two root levels to start from, one for the assets and one for the shots. So we're in that minimal project that we looked at the start. So that's empty. If we pull LoUPE back up though, switch back to the minimal project, pull up the Kanban board, which is where I prefer to make things from. You'll see that we're in the asset library. I'll go ahead and make a new entity here. We will call it asset one. Just give it short code. And we'll make that. So that's there. We go back to Blender. Just switch here so that loads up. Oof, that's not there. Hang on, let me just quickly switch back. Okay, take a look at that. Why don't we just jump then to the Mimo project, because this has some assets. So this is the same project structure that you see on the Kanban. Everything here, although these are files on disk, they kind of represent the same hierarchy that you see here. So in progress, I have my characters, props, and sets, and you'll see I have my characters, props, and sets, and the assets live here. So we're using these as container assets. We're not actually going to work on those themselves. So we'll just open up character, and you can see I've got all of my characters in here. Same for shots, my sequences, and then the shots inside. So if we were to open shot 10, sorry, shot 10, you'll see the same kind of thing. So a couple things about the asset manager. One, we kind of work in this concept of teams. So the teams are represented by the processes that we've created on, for this shot. So you'll see here I have animation, art, editorial, all these different steps. That's for sequence 10, shot 1. And if we go to the Kanban board, let me just switch over to the shots library, sequence 1, and pull up shot 10. And let's go over to our, so these are all the processes that are going to make up our team inside of LoUPE. We actually switch to the different project here. So sorry, a little bit simpler here. So in the characters here, we'll go ahead and take a look at this Dragon file. So when we make a shot or an asset in LoUPE through the LoUPE interface on the Kanban board or with the action menu, we automatically get a version 1 file. It's kind of a stub file. I've configured these projects for Blender, and so as soon as we make an asset, it creates an empty Blender file that is kind of tracked and ready for us to start with. So the first thing we do when we're going to work with an asset is open the file that we want to start from the team we want to start from. So if we were going to model this dragon, I would switch to the modeling team. You'll see that we have this version 1. This is just a file that was automatically created by LoUPE for us to begin with. And we'll click open, and the asset manager will pull that down. And I think you guys can see the header here. You'll see that I'm now working out of my C drive temp, and it's kind of replicated the project structure all the way down to this checkout.blend file, which means that we're ready to go. And so it's just a default Blender file. It's got a camera, light, and a cube in it, none of which we are going to need. So we'll delete those. And we're ready to start modeling or whatever our process is going to be. Just for demonstration purposes, I'll go ahead and add some geo. Not quite a dragon, but good for demonstration. And once we're kind of happy with our work, so we save. We're working locally. That'll save the file to my disk, just like any other kind of work I'm doing. And when I'm ready to kind of check it back in, I have two options. So I can save a version. This will create a new version in our versions list here on the modeling team. So you'll see if I save, we'll get a version 2, and I'll do that. It'll ask me for a comment. This box will pop up. The base model. And you'll see that it uploads really quick. It's a pretty small file, and we get a new version 2 on the modeling team. That's tracked. So that's now been sent back to the AWS S3 storage. That's all in the cloud. It's ready. Anybody can pick it up now. I can keep working, doing whatever I'm going to do to this model. And when I'm ready to pass it off to a downstream team, we have this concept of publishing. So every team, modeling team, surfacing, rigging, art, any team, there's one kind of canonical version of that team's work that other teams should pick up. So right now we don't have any because we just started. But once we get this approved, we go ahead and, rather than just saving, we save and publish, and that does a couple of things. First of all, it does the exact same thing that saving does, which is that it creates a new version and syncs it to the cloud. Saving and publishing will, you'll see when we click save, I have this option to sync external files, and we looked at that earlier in the preferences as well. And that just controls whether or not we're going to upload kind of files external to this blend file, textures or anything. Publishing does that by default, so that everything is definitely there. And then it also sets a flag on this version that this is the published version. And you'll see if I flip to the published tab for this team, there's nothing yet. It's because I'm working out of my sandbox. If I go ahead and save and publish this, I'll get the same dialog. I'll have to give it a comment again. So let's just say this is the base model for rigging that I'm going to hand off to them. And you'll see here in the asset manager that it uploads that, makes a new version 3. Actually, I can probably make this a bit bigger for you guys. Now we have a version 3 in here, and we have this little icon that indicates that it's published, so it's ready to be picked up by another team. If I flip to the publish tab here, you'll see version 3 is the published file and a little bit of information about it. And now if I were to switch to the rigging team, you'll see there's no published files there. So you'll see that we've got our stub file here that was created. We can open that. So we can do this. Now you'll see that we're in the version 1 file for a different team. So our monkey asset is gone. Again, we can just jump back to the modeling team, where you'll see that we still have our base model here. And we can link that into our shot. Oops. Grab Suzanne, link it in. Okay, so now we've linked in the asset that we made on the modeling team into this file. We can also pick up the whole file from the modeling team if we want. So we can switch to the rigging team and use this pull for team button. So if we were to pull the modeling team, there's only one published file here, version 3. When we do that, we can actually open that file itself, copy it into our. Yeah, you'll see that it's indicated as a pull. Copy it into our team, and then open it. And that's the basic functionality of the asset manager. It's a powerful way to get your data into the cloud, to version it, we're not going to cover rendering today, but to render it once it's there.
Hey, Mike, we're just about at the hour mark, which I know we've got lots of time on our side to stick around and answer any questions, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. There are no open questions right now, but if anybody has anything that they'd like to ask, please feel free to put it in the Q&A chat there. I did want to highlight a couple of things. Mike mentioned support also for Maya and a LoUPE plugin for Maya, which will be coming. We also have plans to develop Houdini plugin and also plugin with Unreal Engine. So our intention is to be able to walk before we run, but we do intend to support all of the major packages out there as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, and also, John, I think we're looking at kind of just support for arbitrary file tracking as well, not built into a DCC. That's kind of
yes,
that we know is important. That you have. We're obviously doing everything in Blender, and a lot of people are doing lots of most of the things in Blender, but we have Photoshop files and other files and things that are floating around that we'd also like to version and track in the same way that we do blend files or anime files. So that's something that we're developing also.
But the Blender and the Maya plugins are available today.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of which, also, I just wanted to mention that when you go to the AWS Marketplace, you do need to set up an account, but there is an automatic 30-day free trial for anybody that signs up with LoUPE, and you can even select to not auto-renew that if you're worried about the trial ending and forgetting to cancel. So please feel free to go there and check it out. I see Shervin's got a question. How does the asset manager work with USD workflow?
Yeah, that's probably something we'd have to follow up on separate.
Yep.
Talk to our dev team.
I do know that.
But we are working on the USD integration.
Yeah. I think our intention was to have full USD support for this release, but the Blender USD collaboration isn't quite where we need it to be yet, so that will be coming for sure.
Yeah, so that's on the roadmap. I'm sure now that we have this release, John, we're gonna look at features for the next couple of releases and probably be able to talk about that at some point soon. USD support though is definitely one of them. That's a high priority for us.
Yep. And Sherwin's asking again, what are the requirements to run LoUPE on-prem, not on AWS/cloud? So LoUPE is entirely cloud-based. So the LoUPE as a platform runs on AWS. It's actually hosted out of Virginia currently. But we really believe in sort of a hybrid on-prem cloud model. So from a deadline perspective in our partnership with ThinkBox, we will be able to provide you with any deadline licenses that you need to take advantage of your on-prem resources, as well as whatever rendering you're doing in the cloud. So we understand that the cloud is sort of the next frontier for rendering, but we also understand, because we're a production studio, that people have investments in hardware and we don't want you to just have to throw that stuff out. So part of our model is making sure that we can augment your on-prem with the cloud. Any other questions here?
Shervin had a question about task templates, which I can just address really quick.
Okay.
So we can see it. So I'll share my desktop once again. Yeah, so this is a bit beyond the scope of the demo, but advanced project configuration type stuff. But you'll see that on the project settings tab, so this is just the homepage for a project if we flip the templates tab. There's an editor here where you can kind of make your own custom entity types, but also you can make task templates that get applied to those to entities when you create them. So you'll see that on our assets, we have this asset template, and when we make an asset, we automatically create an art, a rigging, a servicing, a modeling, a VFX process, and then the tasks that we make within those processes. This kind of mirrors the nested nature of the Kanban, just because there's multiple levels to, when we make an asset, we also make a process. The process makes some tasks, and so on. And in that way, you can set up your own templates, and on the Kanban, on the Kanban board, when you're making new things, when you make an asset, you'll be able to, it'll automatically create those child tasks. But with the types editor, you can actually make, a prop asset, for example, that has a different template, and get into, advanced customization things like that. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep. And Pierre was asking about training. How does someone coming from other tracking production applications like Shotgun get trained for LoUPE? So that, we've got lots of resources to help you with training, and we'd be happy to take that on a case-by-case basis. But our goal certainly with LoUPE is to provide a very artist-friendly user interface. I can tell you from my perspective as a sales guy, I can run LoUPE and I picked it up in a couple of days, but we can certainly cater any training program to anything that any of the potential customers need. No problem at all.
Yeah,
We've
definitely.
also got, No, I was just going to point to read the docs.
Yeah, as I say, we have some docs set up, and we're going to be rolling out. We've tried to document the core functionality, core features, and provide a couple of examples, but we're going to hopefully get a bunch more examples in there in the next couple of days and weeks, as well as some more videos and things. And I think definitely towards coming to LoUPE from other production tracking software is a good thing to maybe look at. But yeah, like John's saying, we're available. If you have a specific question or a specific use case that you want to migrate to LoUPE, we're happy to help. But yeah, it's meant to be pretty intuitive, and it is pretty intuitive, I find, and like John's saying, he finds. So hopefully once you get
if I can do it, anybody
can. There is some advanced customization, like I was showing you in the types editor and templates editor, and that stuff you might need a little bit more time to grasp. But we try to ship it with some templates that work out of the box, and a lot of things pre-configured that for hopefully a lot of use cases it's good to go.
Yeah, and regarding the AWS Marketplace and signing up for the free trial, I would recommend that you you do select auto renew, not so that it will convert into the real product, but that way, if you're populating the trial with any of your production data and you want to continue, it'll just continue with the instance beyond. Then you don't need to start fresh. So just keep that in mind. But I don't think we have any other questions. So certainly anybody that's on this webinar will have my email. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to send them to me. I can connect you with Mike and our development team as well. As we mentioned, we want to be for artists, by artists. And part of that is providing you access to all the people behind the scenes. So we really want to be a team that is out in the community and really listening to what your requirements are and ideas for development and future roadmap stuff. Yeah, so please send us your questions and we will be sure to stay in touch. And yeah, there's no other questions, so maybe we'll let everybody go here. And we do have another webinar tomorrow afternoon, so if you want to ask any further questions or check anything out further, please let us know. Oh, hang on, one last question from Sherwin. Kanban process can get complicated quickly. How is the experience of your PMs and leads working with Kanban View for VFX management compared to traditional workflow they are used to? I wish Jeff Bell was on the phone for this one, because his main peeve is having 27 different categories for shot progress. So
yeah, I find it pretty pretty effective. Yeah, certainly on really large productions, it gets complex, but I don't think any more complex than more like a Gantt based scheduling type approach would be. I mean, and we're looking into how we might integrate alongside the Kanban something more similar to Gantt with more of a calendar based flow. But in my personal experience, I find over the past couple of years, especially, that every team that worked on my productions was using Kanban themselves, like within their team, and they were doing it like in Trello or outside of the production tracking software. So they had all this data that they found the process really intuitive and good for themselves, for their teams, and I always kind of relented that we didn't have that alongside our real production tracking data. So what really interested me about LoUPE is that we can let the teams do that. They can kind of manage their own processes in this Kanban style, and through the roll up summary features and progress tracking, production can kind of work with that data as well. And I don't find it any worse than a Gantt chart at scale. And certainly it's actually a little bit easier to keep up to date. You have fewer things that need to be updated. It's pretty easy to drag and drop things around. So yeah, it's my preferred way of managing production. Although, like I said, we are looking into how we might add some additional views around the Kanban to just give some different perspectives on how things are scheduled and planned.
cool. Oh, Sherman's saying thank you. Thank you, Sherman.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll end things there. Again, thanks to everybody for taking the time out to join us. I really dream of a future not too far away where Mike and I can actually get back on the road and come and see you in person. So hopefully as soon as this pandemic starts to calm down a little bit, we can get back out on the road and come and visit your studios and learn more about what you're up to. So please check out our website, email me if you have any questions, and I'm happy to connect you with anybody on the team. Mike, thanks to you for the demo, and we'll see everybody later.
Thanks, good.
Thank you.